Oh, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari, and first of all, it's a very dark period for Nigeria. Virtually all of Nigeria is mourning the tragic accident that happened on Friday, in which a plane crash near Kaduna, in fact, and Nigeria lost Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru. He was the Chief of Army Staff. There's a sense in which, well, first of all, it shows the president has ordered that flags be flown at half-mast in public buildings across the country, and that will be the situation until Wednesday. There's been such an outpouring of grief. On the program, our hearts go out to the family, the Nigerian Army, and indeed the Nigerian people on the loss of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru. And we'll be talking about this morning that very, very unfortunate event, but a news item that was also, that's also been reported this morning. Only this morning, bandits are reported to have kidnapped 12 residents, according to a newspaper, 12 residents in Tafa local government area of Niger State, in what was referred to as a house-to-house operation. So there if anything, this underlies the fact that Nigeria is not in a position to let up at all on its war against insurgency, terror, banditry, and all of that. And I have two, people to discuss this thing with me. Mr. Curtis Adigba is a lawyer and public consultant. Thank you very much for coming on, Curtis.
Thanks for having me.
And Alhaji Hassan Abdulaziz Sani, communications expert and opinion molder. Again, good morning, sir, and thank you very much for coming on.
Good morning, Mr. Ori, and good morning, Nigeria.
Indeed, it is our pleasure. I imagine, first of all, a word about the tragedy. I imagine you might want to say something about that.
Well, I don't know where to start from, but I'd like to say that the nation lost a patriot, a gallant officer. The wife lost a husband. The children lost their father. The parents lost a son. And the family members lost a brother, uncle, nephew, cousin. We can't be grateful enough for his service and those of others, as well as their sacrifice. They died in the cause of duty to their fatherland.
Indeed. Because it needs to be remembered that, yes, the Chief of Army Staff did pass on, but so did, yes, I think, 10 or 11 others,
including other brigadier generals,
yes,
majors, flight lieutenants, and all of that.
Exactly.
We are grateful for their service,
indeed,
and for their sacrifice.
Indeed. Alhaji Hassan Sani, did you want to say a word or two about...
Yeah. The death of Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru is a great loss. This is a great son of Nigeria. As Mr. Adiba said, a gallant soldier, a fine officer, a rugged soldier, an infantry soldier, and above all, a soldier, a patriotic soldier for that matter. We could remember he was at the battlefront. He was a fighter. He fought from the beginning to the end. He fought with zeal. He was a former theater commander of Operation Lafi Adoli, and before now becoming the Chief of Army Staff. On competence, not on sentiment, we lost a great son of Nigeria. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
Indeed. And of course, the Nigerian Army itself lost an invaluable asset.
They lost a leader.
They lost a leader.
At a critical and crucial moment.
Indeed.
But they must not let up. This is a tragedy, no doubt. But the army is an institution. And they have people that can take over and then move on the fight. This is a task that must be accomplished. So I understand that this is a tough time for everybody in the country, especially for his professional colleagues. But then we must continue to live on and accomplish the task that he set out to do.
Indeed,
that is the biggest legacy that his death will live with, with us as a people and country.
Indeed. And since the unfortunate incident, Abdulaziz, what we have heard has been, an outpouring of grief all over the place. Any public, it's an outpouring of grief. I mentioned that the flag will be flying at half-mast. There you can see some of the Christian officers being buried in the Christian way, and the other, faith Muslims, they were also buried in their own way. Now, we've got to move on, as has been said. We don't have a choice. We have to move on because the task has not been lessened. As I was saying, only this morning we have the report that 12 residents in Tafa local government area of Niger State, were kidnapped in a house-to-house operation bearing heavy arms. We don't know how they're going to continue, but we do know that they will continue. Some of the names, for instance, we're hearing that perhaps Major General Danjuma Ali Kefi has been named as the acting chief of staff, but the army has remained stolidly silent on this. There's been no confirmation of that idea. And as he said, as Curtis said, there's no shortage of highly qualified officers. This is something that the president will have to decide on. The last word, the ultimate word on who is to replace the fallen Ibrahim Attahiru will come from the president. But there are implications whatever way he goes, whatever choice he makes. Because one hears that within the military, depending on who is chosen, anybody who is below him necessarily has to give way. And there are concerns that if care is not taken, then we might actually be losing the advantage of so many skilled, highly trained officers. It doesn't look like a very easy task ahead of us.
I don't think this is the right time for us to be discussing this. And the issue of the man, media are peddling around, saying is a possible successor,
which has not been commented upon by the army.
I don't think it's the right thing to say for now. And the appointment of a service chief rests squarely on the commander-in-chief, who is Mr. President. And as I can tell you now, authoritatively here, is that as they used to say it in the military parlance, no retreat, no surrender. Mm-hmm. We are never short of competent officers, fighters that are ready to confront the bandits and the Boko Haram head on within our folds. And I knew Mr. President will do the needful at this crucial time that we lost a gallant soldier,
indeed,
a great son of Nigeria.
Indeed. Now, Curtis, no retreat, no surrender, yeah. I guess every Nigerian is feeling that way as well. But do you expect this to have any sort of an impact on the campaign against insurgency and banditry? And I ask this against the background of reports that we were getting that this crop of officers, they're new, and they arrived after much agitation, much commentary, and finally the president was able to appoint a whole new set. Now the army chief is not with us anymore. Do you expect this to have an impact, or, well, just how do you think we're going to make this have as a minimal impact? Because it has been said, it has been reported, and we're not military officers, but it has been reported, it is out there in the public space, that Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru was beginning to make impact.
We cannot sit here and undersubscribe the impact that leadership can make on an institution or a group of people. It has been said that things rise or fall with leadership. But I also want Nigerians to understand that General Attahiru is actually not new. He's commanded troops even under the former Army Chief Buratai, while fighting the insurgency. That, of course, gave him some insider advantage, and that was how he was able to calibrate this fighting force to begin to gain advantage over the insurgents. But we also must understand that he wasn't doing this alone. he also had men and officers who were actually in the battlefront fighting under his leadership. And so, whatever momentum they gained, I am hoping, and Nigerians are hoping, that this momentum will be sustained, and that the bandits will not think that because the general is no more that they have won the battle. That would be a foolish mistake for them to make, because the army is an institution. The armed forces is an institution. So the thinking that, yes, it's dirty. I mean, it's tragic. Tragic is no way to, but like we are a country, and the army is an institution. It's still going to move on, and will not let down on this fight. That I can guarantee you. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, when you lose a loved one, whether in your family or in the country, and you can see the outpouring of sympathy, grief among Nigerians, that is bound to have some negative emotional impact. But it's something, see, the difference between leaders and followers is when followers are losing their own health out of emotion, leaders keep theirs firm and have their sight on the focus, because it is for them to protect the country. And so Mr. President is grieving, but deep down in his heart, he's already thinking about who will take over and who is going to be able to do the job. Mm-hmm. 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 So that's how these things work.
Now, Abdulaziz Hassan, when you look at, yeah, we can't expect the insurgents or all these bandits to quote unquote behave as expected, but this news that just this morning, early hours of this morning, they actually have kidnapped 12 more residents to add to the unholy total that they've been amassing. It's like maybe we're reading too much into it. It might just have been a coincidence, but them hitting in this way, it's part of the whole mix and turmoil that that Curtis was saying is not going to impress us in any way, shape, or form.
Mr. Yori, there's no way we can ignore the realities staring us on our faces. You see, recently, there was one that happened, that of Idris Deby Itno of Chad. Mm. A major guard in the Sahelian against the Boko Haram and whatsoever insecurity we're experiencing in the Sahelian region. And that one happened on the 19th of April, 2021. And here is another one. Here are the people that are very much serious, fighting with alacrity to see to the end of this asymmetric warfare we are experiencing in Nigeria and in the sub-region of Sahelian. And let me take you down memory lane. The most unstable polity in Africa that is impacting negatively on the security of the region is that of Chad. Because right from independence, the only person that ruled that country for straight 30 years is Idris Deby. The first one was the post-independence, that is Fontua Tombolbaye, that ruled from 1960 to 1975. The remaining ones, there was even one among them, Noel Odinga, that was there for just 2 days. Some 127 days. People like Muhammad Chua, he was there for 127 days. We have people like Gokoni Wadai. He was there, he was overthrown, he came back again, he was overthrown by Hussein Habri before being taken over in 1990 by Idris Deby. There was a kind of stability in that region. There is no way you can look away from your neighbor when it comes to national security, because most of the rebels that are coming from the Maghreb, that is Libya, are coming through Chad to Nigeria. And we lost a guard in the person of Idris Deby. And now we are having a very serious officer that is ready to fight them head on. I'm not here to downplay the role played
By
by
his
Buratai
colleagues. Okay.
predecessors. Because they tried in the beginning. But why we all call for their sack was because we saw it waning. So the best bet, let us have a new guard. But unfortunately, it was short-lived last Friday. But as we are all saying, as Mr. Adigba rightly said, a leader must not be distracted. A leader must be forward-looking. A leader must see that there was no this psychological defeat. You understand? And you don't give confidence to the so-called armed robbers, codenamed bandits, and Boko Haram in Nigeria.
You know, exactly. I don't imagine that there will be any loss of focus, and such is the nature of the task before us. But also there's a sense in which when you look at what some sectors of the public are saying via the freedom they have to be able to say it, social media and all of that, it does give one cause for concern. People, for instance, the late Attahiru said in the recent past that over my dead body will Nigeria split up. And there are those who were circulating that round and round and round. No doubt, not from the noble sentiment by which it said it, but we can only begin to guess if you come up with a thing like that around this time. So I guess what I'm driving at by mentioning that is that I don't know how much the public is behind our boys in this arduous task that they are having. And is there anything that can be done about that? And surely it matters, because they read as well. Our boys in uniform, they read.
Yeah. You know, first and foremost, I have not seen anywhere from a legitimate source, such that you can confirm that late General Attahiru said, over his dead body will Nigeria be divided. I mean, he said so many things about the army budget and all that. So this is probably just a creation of some idle minds. Trying to give
one has to be wary of
talking points to those whose minds are already made up about certain people. But this culture, this adversary culture that you see practiced by some Nigerians, is not new. In all parts of the world, you have people who act this way. In America, for instance, you have the QAnon, conspiracy theorists. They just sit down and form things, and then before you know, it's said forwarded many times.
Yes.
And people just think that the forward button on their phones is a device to suspend their brains. Don't think. So you receive something, you don't even understand what it's saying, you forward. You say, oh, I just forward you as I received it.
Or the impact, or the implication.
So if you don't believe in a thing, don't forward to others. So you first of all have to go through it and be sure that this agrees with your values, and all that before you can then spread it. So the truth of the matter is that I also saw and I felt that it was inhuman, and I've always said death is not a reward for bad or good choices in life. If it were so, the good people won't die. Indeed. Only the bad will die.
Indeed.
But death will come to every one of us. The circumstances, we don't know. And how we are going to die, we don't know. So you don't have to rejoice for whatever reason at the death of anybody. And I think that is inhumane. That reflects poorly on those people more than the person who is dead. Because Indeed. When you are dead, you don't know anything.
Of course, of course. Now, this whole, the point of this, of course, is that there are people, and I don't know, their number might not be few, that have this mindset that leaders have been speaking against. I think over the weekend I saw some leaders, APC leaders in particular, saying that, wagging their finger, as it were, in warning against secessionist agitators. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to keep together, isn't it?
Mr. Yori, there's no way you can stop people from talking. the same way you cannot stop them from eating. But one thing is very clear here. You see, this freedom...
One moment, please. Could I just interrupt you now so that you can continue? Okay. Let me take Chidi. Good morning, Mr. Chidi in Kafancha.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Guests over there. Hello. Good morning, sir.
Please continue. Okay, please continue. I can hear you now. Thank you very much.
Please, I want to take this opportunity to commiserate with Nigerians entirely, and particularly the families of the late victims. The Chief of Army Staff and 10 other gallant military officers that were slain as a result of the ill-fated military plane crash. I think their death must not be in vain. And I've been listening keenly with what the other young man, Curtis, has been saying. I want to believe that their death will bring more understanding and peace to Nigeria and an end to this insurgency that we have been fighting for over the years.
Indeed. Thank you.
Whosoever that will take after him, may he continue on the legacy this general has left behind. May the good Lord comfort their families and comfort Nigerians entirely.
Thank you
God
very
bless
much.
Nigeria.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in, Chidi. Please continue, Elijah.
Mr. Yori, I'm a Muslim. In Islam, whenever a person dies, the first thing to say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. From him we come, and from him we goes back to. And the another one is, Kulli nafsin za'iqatul maut. Every soul must taste death. Death is not a monopoly of anybody. Everybody must taste it. If you are happy, your own is coming. But let us come back to this issue of people saying whatsoever they like on social media. Let me be very, very frank with you, Mr. Yori. I knew people that are saying that. We knew the section that are saying that. We knew newly co-opted sections that are saying that. But what is very clear, please, enough of looking at them. What is the federal government doing to make them irrelevant? In terms of appointment, in terms of balancing things in the country, in terms of making people to feel Nigeria.
A sense of belonging.
Let me tell you one thing. Never be a party. We voted for Buhari. We voted Jonathan out because what we saw Jonathan doing that is not in the national interest. We brought in Buhari to restore confidence, to make Nigerians Nigerians because of the confidence we have in him. So there's a need, not just for one side. We should stop this issue of looking at one side. No.
Okay.
As Nigerians, we should talk to the leadership.
Yeah.
The leadership.
If it was your concept,
make them irrelevant.
Okay. If it was your concept that you voted Jonathan out because of his policies that were not favorable to Nigeria, and as you put it, you brought in Buhari, the
policies, the policies of Goodluck Jonathan,
yes,
was not Nigerian.
Okay.
Do you know why?
But now,
prior to 2015,
but now, what is your assessment now?
Let me tell you one thing. You see, now, what we are seeing in Nigeria, there is a need for government not to be distracted and make it a government of cohesiveness. Okay. And make those people redundant.
Okay.
Because by the way we continue...
Is it your idea that this is a work in progress? I mean, I'm trying to get a sense, since you were definitive about
We hope so.
You hope so?
We hope so.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Kesandu. Well,
Uncle, I agree to you.
I'm going to come to you. I know you have something to add.
It is so disheartening and unfortunate that we lost our men in this particular manner. My heart goes out to their families
And we pray that God will accept their souls in Jesus' name. Amen. Uncle, you asked a very pertinent question. If we are behind our boys in this fight, Uncle, you see, from here in Owerri, I have friends who are up there doing this fight against insurgency. And the thing I could do to give them all support by virtue of prayer and faith. We are behind them, we are supporting them. But all we are saying is, you know, there is this news. In fact, I have something that the news I saw on TVC News, where a young man that is selling arms, but is being guided by a military man. So these are things that we are actually against. These are things we are speaking against. And you see, unfortunately, this thing has happened like this. But this is another ample opportunity for Mr. President to right some wrongs.
Okay.
We have some people from this part of the country that he can actually act capable, and have the capacity to fight insurgency that are from this part of the country to serve in the position of the Chief of Army Staff. Why would Mr. President use this video to actually rewrite some of these wrongs? It will go a long way to stop some of these agitations. Because we have contributed our foot towards the development of this country. And it is quite unfortunate that when some of these sensitive issues are being discussed, you cannot find an Igbo man in the service security architecture of this country. It is so discerning. So Mr. President should wake up to this responsibility while we pray and give all necessary support to our armed forces. They are doing their best.
Okay, Kesandu, I'm going to have to interrupt you now, but I thank you very kindly calling in all the way from Owerri in Imo State. Yeah. And by the way, we saw a burning aircraft there. Yeah. I just remember that the Nigeria Air Force has said that Air Force planes are in good condition. That is in reaction to...
I want to quickly say something about what Alhaji said.
Okay.
I don't subscribe to the idea that some part of the country should be made irrelevant. I still feel that in every part of the country, you find people who are patriotic and who actually want to build up their country. They might have...
I don't think he was referring... He's here to speak for himself. I don't think he was referring to a part of the country, but those...
No, he said some people should be made irrelevant.
That is those people that,
no matter
that
how
are
small,
speaking in a heartless kind of a fashion.
You still look,
leadership... They should be made, what I said,
yes.
They should be made redundant.
Redundant, yes.
Okay.
We can't afford...
Do you know why? Do you know why I'm saying this?
Let him answer, then I'll let you come back.
We can't even afford to make anybody redundant. You see, if we were to build an all-inclusive country, don't forget that there is no country in the world where everybody moves forward to build a country. But you still cannot leave them behind. You will have to make that effort to carry them along with you. Okay?
And as long as they're willing to come.
Yeah, well, even if they're not willing to come, you have to do your best as the leader and let them continue in their attitude.
Okay. So that's a lot of energy.
So when they see
a lot of energy being expended.
Yeah, when they see the result.
As opposed to what he said, which is that, can you just, if the guy doesn't want to join, just look away from him. Don't be distracted. Focus on those which are in the majority, hopefully.
The fact is that they're going to continue to distract you,
okay,
so long as they have a stake in this country. Now, but having said that, I am not too confident. I'm not too confident about the saying by the military that their aircraft are in good shape.
Yes, they said that.
This is the third time. This is the third one coming down in about 2 months. The same aircraft, the Beechcraft aircraft. Okay, and so if you say, yes, you could have a history of maintenance on paper that shows that this aircraft is in good condition. But in reality, were they actually maintained, given the situation that we have in our country?
Okay.
So it is good that this be investigated.
Okay. Alhaji, you wanted to do a rejoinder, but let me first of all bring in Prince Martins in Kaduna. Good morning, Prince Martins.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for calling. Quickly, please.
My condolence to the entire Nigeria, our gallant officers in the crash. I pray that their death will not be, and I pray that their death will go together. God will give us the best to capture the Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much for calling in, Prince Martins in Kaduna. Alhaji.
Mr. Curtis.
Yes, sir.
We are all here now, and there's a need for us to put something straight. What I said is that government should do the needful to make them redundant. Redundant in the sense that not to have a justification to be making such an inciting comment.
Okay.
That was mine.
Okay.
Meaning.
I get you. I get you.
That was
and let me tell you.
I get you now.
That was the meaning.
I stood for Nigeria. I stood for justice. I stood for equity. And that was why I voted for Muhammadu Buhari against Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Don't think because I was speaking against Jonathan that there are some qualities I don't appreciate in him. No.
Yes.
This is a president
Yeah.
that rescued himself at the end hour of his regime.
But in voting for Buhari, have your expectations been met?
We are hopeful it will be met.
Okay. We'll take a break now. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stories.
We've got some of the best reporters on the field.
Taking you through as it happens.
It's fast-paced, hard-hitting.
With investigations that matter.
Bringing in news that affects your life.
With sport, entertainment, and business news so you don't miss a thing.
Experience resourceful coverage with depth.
Every night.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Honey, what time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, welcome back. Still have Curtis Adigba and Hassan Abdul Aziz Sani as my guests this morning. It's the morning following the dark weekend in which Nigeria lost its Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Attahiru, in an air crash in Kaduna. And so we were talking about, look, the job before the army that he led and the impact of this happening and the need to continue. In spite of the great loss, the need to continue, which I'm sure is the way, because both gentlemen here have spoken about focus and that they are sure that they will not take their eye off the ball.
Again, we shouldn't also make it look like fighting the insurgents is only the job of the army.
Yeah,
we have three arms of the military. The Chief of Air Staff is in place. The Chief of Naval Staff is in place. The Chief of Defense Staff is in place. They all contribute to this battle, as we know. That does not in any way reduce the pains of the death, the tragic death of the Chief of Air Staff. But I can assure you, like I've said here, and he has also said, that the military is a resilient institution. But also, one of the things that Nigeria must begin to look at now is that the military alone cannot win this war.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason is because as we speak, there are thin spread. The military is carrying out operations in 34 out of 36 states. The military are also on the roads, providing security on the roads. There is a need to strengthen the police mobile force that is equally very, very good at combating some of these crimes. You're talking about bandits going from house to house. These are not what you really expect soldiers to be doing. And then you see a lot of mobile police force around, providing security to private individuals, moving around, doing jobs at a time of a national security emergency. I think the police hierarchy should look into that.
Indeed.
And then strengthen the police mobile force.
Yeah, but when Curtis said it's not exclusively the preserve of the army to fight insecurity, I understand him perfectly. And the idea is well received because it has been mentioned oftentimes. But I think where this comes about is the army has constantly said that it needs to be backed by its people. The president, everybody needs to be behind the army. And some of the sentiments that are coming out, look, if the army is working towards a certain objective and there are people knocking that objective any old how without giving it deep thought and coming up with very, very highly reasoned considerations. I guess that's the other part of the equation. I take fully what Curtis said, but also a component of those in this fight will be the people themselves.
That's quite right. You see, when Mr. Curtis talk about police, in a normal crime, police are supposed to be in charge of internal security.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Why are we having army? Why we are having army in this kind of scenario is because of the international dimension of Boko Haram. You understand? It's of international connection. And with the confidence of people, Nigerian people are much more in trust with Nigerian army than the police. But notwithstanding, the police should be up and doing.
Yes, yes.
They should resuscitate the mobile police force. You understand? Because go to Lagos by the expressway, you will see those ones that are redundant on the road. Do you know what they are doing? Waiting to be picked by vehicles, commercial vehicles, coming from northern part of the country for them to provide a kind of security for them against the mishandlings of the last man in Lagos. Just go to that expressway. I'm giving you.
Okay.
And secondly,
let me come back to that because a caller is on the way. Is waiting. Yeah. A caller has been waiting. Mazi Okorafor. Good morning, sir. In Arochukwu.
Mazi. Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guests in the studio.
Thank you.
Good morning, Good morning, Dr. Hassan.
Good morning. Good morning.
That is inevitable. That is something that Tom, Dick, and Harry is inevitable. May their souls and the souls of the people departed rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Amen.
Now, what we are going to learn is this. I'll just call on the federal government of Nigeria. 3 crashes within some months is not held because before we talk about aircraft, you have to look at. I would tell the Nigerian government to look into the causes, not of us to look at the symptoms. Now, we come back to the people that died. You see, Nigeria is a country before the legacy, the young man and his groups and the people that among them that will do their job, this thing happen. We should keep it up. What if I keep it up? Let the military or people concerned to do that. The roadmap, let us do what they call continuity. Because if there's whereby it's a roadmap on the ground, another person comes in and you scatter it and start afresh, it's not healthy. Now, Mr. Yuri and our guests in the studio, there is something we have to learn. The authorities concerned in the military, we have seen what happened. We should try as much as possible to make sure such thing does not occur again. That is what we have to do. Number 2, people and the aim of their friends in authority, we should say exactly what we do to make sure that the insurgency, the fight against all these terrorists, anything we call them, will stop. Because the area this is, will not be having all this problem of losing human beings as citizens. Because if you just open that, turn your TV now, this was by 12 o'clock now, we have been hearing another story now, what happened in some states, which is not healthy. Now, how do you expect the young ones, maybe around that kind of 15, 20 to 30 years, how will they feel in 20 years to come? When things have been destroyed now, what will happen? The elders and the people of authority, let us find solutions. See how people are dying. I think we are just there. It's not healthy. It's not healthy.
Indeed.
Thank God that the outpouring of the Holy Spirit was here to that Pentecost Sunday. Let the Spirit of God touch everybody in this country. Let us find a lasting solution to the criminality in this country. Thank you very much. Have a great day in Lagos.
Indeed. Thank you very much. He said quite a few, at least 2 or 3, if not 4 times, about things not being healthy. And I guess we can read that because things are not, quite frankly, straightforward in this society. You know, there have been all sorts of, conspiracy theories On the one hand, you know, in spite of the yeoman's work that the army is doing, we have often heard that who knows what instructions the army is operating under. Now, there are those who are willing to take that kind of a thing, that kind of an idea, and run with it and begin to sort of try to dissect it. Just the other day, General Danjuma, retired, had reason to deny that one of his aircraft, one of his helicopters, General Abdul Salami, former head of state, had reason to deny that one of his aircraft, I think it was a helicopter, had anything to do with facts that were circulating all over the place, that it was his aircraft
bringing weapons,
exactly
for Boko Haram insurgents.
And a Frenchman was detained. So I mean, it's gotten to the level where, as the retired general said, he ordinarily would not have wanted to comment, but then felt that, you know, this is ridiculous, this is fake. Now, in terms of things not being healthy, these are just true instances of the kind of things people have to contend with. And whereas I'm sure that you and a lot of people have their minds very, very clear on this issue, is it not muddying the waters for some who are not going to be deep thinkers about it?
Mr. Yori, as a communication person, rumor thrives when there is insufficient information from a formal source. You see, the government should begin to speak out.
Okay.
For them not to allow to be maligned, and not to allow responsible members, our leaders, to be maligned.
Okay.
Because we are allowing people to just sit down somewhere and cook up a story. Who knows tomorrow? Who knows the next person?
And you think it's because government is not doing as good a job as it could be doing with its communication?
Let me tell you, yes.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
And there's no synergy.
Okay.
Among the forces. You understand?
Let me come back to the point so they can develop it. Chinedu, good morning, sir, in Taraba. Chinedu.
This is from Taraba State, from Bali, Taraba State.
Okay, good morning. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please, I want to use this medium so the whole soldier in Nigeria, what happened to us.
Okay.
I think the of this country, and these soldiers is disturbing us, especially in Bali local government.
The line is not very good. I'm afraid I'm going to have to discontinue the call, regrettably. The line is not very good. But thank you very much for calling in, nevertheless. Yes.
Mr. Yori, from the beginning, of the fight, of this regime, fight against Boko Haram, there was this problem of lack of synergy between the three major actors, the Air Force, most especially the Air Force and the military. You understand? Because Navy are not so much involved in that area, except in Baga, you understand, in Lake Chad side. But the more prominent people that were accused of lack of synergy are the two, the Air Force and the Army. And that marked the end of them. When the two were eased out of the system, when people of Irabo, of caliber of Irabo, people like the person in the Air Force and Attahiru came in. There was
Amao in the Air Force.
And
it's supposed to be a course mate of Attahiru. They were both on the same course.
And Attahiru came in. It was in the public domain.
Yeah, and they found the synergy.
That look, the Chief of Defense Staff, all of you should report to Chief of Defense Staff, that is Irabo, so that there will be a kind of achievement in the fight against Boko Haram. And secondly, the police remain silent. And they should be up and doing in the Boko Haram. They should be up and doing in the fight against banditry.
But in fairness, the police, we say here day in, day out that they don't have the numbers. They don't even have the numbers to do the internal security job effectively. not to now take on this.
Where have they got the numbers to get those people that are providing security for big men and even 419ers on the street?
Okay, I hear you. Isaac in Minna, Niger State, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, I really commiserate with, the Attahiru and the 11 people that died.
The Nigerian army and people.
Yes, the Nigerian army. Please, my contribution is in form of question. Number one, before I go on that very question, I want to disagree with the young man that is with you there, Abdulaziz Azan, that Jonathan was not having, that Jonathan's interest was not at the national interest. I just want Jonathan, when Jonathan was in power, his policy, his ways and everything was in interest of Nigeria. He conveyed a national comfort. That was, in fact, I don't want to go into that one. What I want to talk about is in form of question. This issue of kidnapping, Boko Haram, what have you, why is it that Nigerians are finding it difficult to identify their sponsors?
Okay, let me not waste too much time. I think it's an excellent point that you are making, and I think that's about the size of it. Let us take hold of this. I don't know, Curtis, you were going to...
You directed something to me.
Yeah, but you see, I haven't heard from Curtis in a long while.
You can go on.
No. But I need, because there's a part where, and I think the last caller sort of brought some of that up. Remember, I'd come, Abdulaziz had said that he had a reason for voting out the last, the incumbent, and it was, for the other side of that particular reason that they had voted in the present. And I'd asked him that, fine, if you were displeased with the results of that administration, how about that? Has your expectation been met? And he said, we are still hopeful. Did you want to pick it up from there? Did you have anything to add?
Well, expectation is a wild horse. You can climb on it, but you don't know where it takes you, except you have the code to stop the horse. I have learned something, to be moderate in my expectation from politicians. Because you see, while they can promise you the moon, they will almost end up delivering you the earth, which you already have. But that is the nature of politics. It is the nature of the guy who is seeking power to hold the feet of the incumbent to the fire and to say that I can do much better. And so if the public believes that the challenger is better than the incumbent, then they vote to put the challenger in power. And automatically, again, he suffers from incompetitus. So those who are outside power can also begin to use the same thing against him. So for me as a person, there were certain things I expected to see from the Jonathan government that I didn't see, that swerved me in the other direction. Now, the jury on President Buhari is still out. We don't have the verdict yet. Because sometimes, we are quick to judge. And that's why I said, I have learned to moderate my expectation. And, I wrote an article some time ago, as soon as Buhari was coming to power. I said, Buhari is one president that his approval rating hit the stratosphere.
Yes.
Even before he was sworn in. Because the projection we had, he was going to end all problems in the country. He was going to come as a retired general, end Boko Haram, within months. Corruption was just going to buy tickets, jump into the plane from Nigeria and go to America, and that would be the end of corruption. The change was going to be instantaneous. And I said, look, change is a process. It's not an event. Progress is incremental.
Maybe that's why he said we are still hopeful.
Mr. Yori,
I got that part right.
Let me answer that person that called in.
Which one? And on what point?
The man that called in that said what I said about former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan.
Okay.
Look.
Yeah, but I don't want us to. You can say whatever you want, but I don't want us to veer too far away from the subject on hand, which is the loss of the Chief of Army Staff in the face of the prosecuting, the war that Nigeria is prosecuting. So those ones were just addendums. I'd rather just sort of...
I can forgive him for that.
Okay. So that's the situation there. I don't know, we've almost run out of time, but okay. Reverend Dominic in Ali Mosho.
Hello, Yori, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to your two guests there.
Yes.
Yori, quickly, because there's no time, I would like you to give me 60 seconds.
Go ahead, please.
I'm just saddened about the death of this young man. I'm very sad. So I'm not part of the conduct that we've gone through all this nation. 1 minute this, 1 minute that. I'm saddened. And all Nigerians should be sad. But I want to make a point there. Alhaji Hassan and his life in the north are the problems of Boko Haram. And what I mean, in trying with courageous men begin to point out saying, I voted against Jonathan. Alhaji Hassan voted against Jonathan for a quotation. And there is a situation that it's not that body will change office, but there will be a change of attitude in government. And we have seen the work of attitude in government since body came in. And the likes of Alhaji Hassan, their thought, their character, their emotion, and the blood that's run in Nigeria. That's what I mean. Last week we were discussing in this television why should governors in the south end open grazing. And Alhaji Hassan said that they could have gone to Buhari to take a permission to stop this bloodletting in the south and the south side. How on earth, in a situation that a man went to make his house peaceful, he will go to Abuja to take permission? And Alhaji Hassan and their land in the north were not comfortable with that direction to stop Boko Haram. Instead of what they call, herdsmen. What is killing people before herdsmen? Herdsmen have been in my village for over 50 years. They give us meat. We buy meat from Umar.
Yeah.
The people are killing Boko Haram.
Yeah.
And the part of Alhaji Hassan and the Minister of Attorney or Minister of Justice of Nigeria are the ones who compare to step fast. Unless the right of Alhaji Hassan in the north, there is not the north. Boko Haram will not end.
Okay, okay, Reverend, thank you very much, Reverend. I guess there is a part of that whole narrative that miffs you a bit because you were saying that the likes of Alhaji Hassan. Alhaji Hassan is just one person. The governor of Kano is another person, for example, and his views are almost diametrically opposite to those of Alhaji Hassan. So, as you know, on our program, we will take all views that we get.
Reverend Dominic is a friend. Reverend Dominic is a friend. Reverend Dominic, I can see that you are really misconstruing a person called Alhaji Hassan.
Very briefly, please.
Yes, because about the ranching, about the open grazing.
Yes.
I was here in the studio, and I stood behind Governor Akeredolu as the chief security officer of the state. And about this one, last week, there was this Zoom program. I said something. Let me repeat it to you briefly. I said, there is nothing wrong with subsidy, but there are a lot of wrongs with the fraud that go with subsidy. There is nothing wrong with grazing, but there is something wrong with criminalities that goes with grazing.
I'm going to have to leave it there.
I hope you got it right.
I'm sure he did. I'm going to have to leave it there. Now, just one very, very short question. Did you expect, President Buhari to be at the funeral of the fallen?
That one is inconsequential as far as I'm concerned.
So that's a good answer for. Did you expect the president to be at the funeral?
I didn't, and I will tell you why. First and foremost, funerals are very sober and intimate affairs. Now, the only reason why this was open to all Nigerians is because they are state funeral, and you don't want to inject the president there, and then take the focus away from the mourning family. To the security of the president. So, because the president has got so many avenues to interact with the families.
Indeed, I understand that.
It's not just about optics.
Yes, so it's actually not inconsequential.
It's not inconsequential. It is. I mean, it's not inconsequential.
But you have your own idea that, look, the focus must be kept.
It has to be on the family and the disease.
Mr. Yori?
Yes, sir.
People are just trying to make something out of nothing.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there.
President has been out of funerals of many prominent Nigerians. Why are you singling out Attahiru?
Okay, Hassan Abdulaziz Sani, communications expert, opinion molder. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Mr. Yori, and thank you, Nigeria.
And indeed, thank you very much, Curtis Adigba, lawyer and public consultant. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your perspectives on this whole matter. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Falani. Bye-bye for now.